gear reviews, trip reports, and more, I'm traveling in a purposeful manner towards a vague destination. Come explore with me. Welcome back, guys. So this week will be our next intro to caving kind of video. So I want to talk about kind of how you can get into caving and what to do it safely. So the first is, how do you get into caving? What do you do? There are a couple of ways you can do this. If you are just looking for a nice commercial trip, you can Google. There are plenty of commercial cave tours out there that will do walking and wild cave tours. But if you're looking for something a little more intense, something that you should do is you should go to caves.org, which is the National Speleological Society's website. And on that website, you can find a list of grottos, which are chapters of the National Speleological Society, or the NSS. And those links will lead you to grotto presidents and youth coordinators and stuff like that in your area, so that you can find locals that are already in the caving community and can help you get started. Once you've found a grotto, you can just communicate with them about their upcoming trips and their intro trips and really get a feel for how to do everything. Now, let's say you are planning a cave trip and you're like, well, I've never planned a trip before. What do I need to make sure that I do? The first thing you should always do when you're going caving is set up, some people call it a flight plan, I call it a call out. Your call out is a person or group of people that you are planning on notifying before you go into the cave and once you get out. Your call out should never be somebody on your trip. It should always be somebody outside of the group. And they should usually be a caver. It's a little bit easier because a caver is going to know, okay, so they're about an hour late, and they might drive to the cave first and see if you guys just haven't had cell signal to text them before jumping straight into calling police and fire when there isn't actually an emergency. But call-outs are really useful, especially if you do get lost or something happens and you can't get to the surface to call for help on your own. Another thing that's very, very important in the caving community is landowner relations. So a lot of the reason that we are able to cave is because people have opened their properties to cavers and caving organizations to allow us to cave there. And that is only possible through having positive landowner relations. If you're wandering on a cave property or you wander into a cave, make sure you're always really respectful to the landowners, because, like I said, without those relationships, we couldn't get into most of the caves that we have access to now. It's very important that we're very respectful of not only these people, but also the properties that they're letting us onto. That brings me to the caver motto, which is, leave nothing but footprints, take nothing but pictures, kill nothing but time. This is also an outdoors person motto, and I think it's related to some scout motto too. So we basically are just saying, like, hey, when you go into these environments, they're very fragile. Like, a cave ecosystem is not something to mess with. And there are a lot of species that only live in caves. So we just want to be respectful of the environment and the people and not leave a big mess and not graffiti our names in mud or paint. Another thing, when you're planning a trip, you should always have a map of where you're going, and you should know how to read the map. So this is what a cave map looks like. It's also important to note that some cave maps are not as good as others, and so there is a large discrepancy between what you might have on your map and what is actually happening. So it's always useful to have somebody with you that's been to the cave before, although not always necessary, but very useful. I think those are like our basic things that we want to go over. Remember, if you want to get into caving, go to caves.org and find your local caving grotto. I'll put a link to that in the description below, as there is a high possibility that I have forgotten something really important. Don't hesitate to let me know in the comments below if there are any additional things that first-time cavers should know. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week. Even if you aren't a caver and you just happen to be watching this video, I don't know how you ended up here, but having a map is really useless if you don't know how to read one. So